You're gonna let Asian lady drive it.
Uh-oh. Let's check out what they give us here. Today, we are doing an install on the Ford Bronco. Yes, the Vivid Racing Ford Bronco that you have seen in some of our other videos that is equipped with our VR Forged wheels, bare brakes, and our VR Performance exhaust. This thing is dialed, but one thing you need to do to really improve the power and performance and driving functionality of the Bronco EcoBoost is an intake. So today we're actually going to be testing the all-new K&N Cold Air Intake system, full install, dyno, and we're even going to plug back in our VR Tune tuning box into the engine to get some more power on that thing. So here's a quick overview of the stock Bronco 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine. We've got the stock air filter right here in this box. It gets its airflow from the front here. Got a crazy little sound generator thing, and this is a big restriction, the corrugated tube. We've got this whole plastic shenanigan that goes around, blah, blah, blah. I've got sensors left and right over to the throttle body, and you can see we even have these plastic intercooler piping. So lots to be improved here on the EcoBoost engine, but we are gonna do it with the K&N Intake. So you can see we've got stuff going on. Let's go check out what the K&N Intake looks like, and hopefully we don't die of heat exhaustion here in Arizona. Let's do it. So here it is. This is the K&N Intake for the Ford Bronco. We've got the Badlands, but of course it fits with the other models, Wild Track and whatnot. So apparently we opened it upside down, but let's check out what they give us here that we're going to be installing. All the K&N products, of course, are well packaged, so we've got tons of stuff to check out. Now, the K&N Intake is all rotomolded plastic. This means this is not metal, will not retain heat. It will fit just like OEM, looks like OEM, but it is going to give you that much improved performance that we are going to show you here in a bit on the dyno. So here's the actual intake box. And inside here, we've got the intake tubes, all new intake tubes, perfect mounts for sensors. Again, rotomold plastic, and this is the silicone couplers, all the silicone couplers needed to connect it without any issues. And here is, yeah, here we go. This is the full intake pipe. This is what's going all the way to the throttle body. Larger diameter, fits with mounts, fits sensors, everything here. This is gonna make a big difference. But of course, what makes a difference on intakes is the air filter. And with K&N, you get their million mile, get out of here. With K&N, you get their high flow air filters, and K&N air filters are always the best because you do not have to actually replace these. You can clean them with the K&N air filter cleaner, and it allows you to keep reusing the intake for time and time again. So we've got some more couplers, the fitting into the box. That's gonna go right here. It's actually very similar to the Raptor intake. And we've got another grill screen. I believe this one's gonna go on top of the intake box here. Help get that fresh air from the front and the top. So K&N, they want you to know how to install it, even though we're gonna show you. So we've got full instructions right here. So that is the new K&N Intake for the Ford Bronco. And like I said, before we actually do the install, we're gonna put this thing on the dyno so we can show you what it does stock. Remember, it's 113 degrees here in Arizona, 91 octane, and those are 37-inch tires, 20-inch wheels. So the readings are gonna be a little bit lower and different than what you might see normally, but what matters is the delta, the difference. We're gonna show you how much the Bronco makes stock versus what it does once we put the intake on. Let's get this thing over to the dyno. This is the world famous Vivid Racing dyno. We've had this dyno since 2005, and this is a Mustang all-wheel drive dyno. It's a big difference from other dynos, as Mustangs are actually like a true rolling road. You've got these giant rollers that are connected with belts, so you actually have a resistance to there. Lots of technical stuff going on with the Mustang dyno, so it gives you the best realistic readings. So we are here, we're gonna get this thing strapped down, and then we'll do our baseline test.
What is that? That dragonfly. we have wrapped up our stock baselines on the Ford Bronco EcoBoost 3.5 liter. We've got some results over here to share. This is obviously before installing an intake or any tuning. With that being said, please keep in mind the vehicle is on 37-inch tires and it's roughly 100 degrees in our shop here in Arizona. Over to our graph, the vehicle is producing roughly 261 wheel horsepower and 367 foot-pounds of torque. We did multiple runs. Obviously, being a turbo vehicle, we are going to see some heat soak and numbers are going to drop. However, it still does pretty good as we're only seeing a loss of roughly 5 wheel horsepower after a couple of runs. All right, it's time to get the K&N Cold Air Intake installed, and then we're going to get it back on the dyno for some final results.
All right, first thing we got to do is take this air box off of these 4 T30s right here.
Jesus Christ, look at this thing.
Oh, it's all oily. All right, so we took out an 8, popped a few clips off, connector off, and now it's ready to come out. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna pop the rest of these 8s off over here, 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 and there, so we can lift this up and pop the rest of this intake off. All the clamps are off this main intake tube. We basically have it pulled off already. Now we're gonna pull this out. Yeah. And now we're about to install the aftermarket K&N main intake tube. Okay, so we just finished buttoning up the main intake tube, put the bolt right there, one right there, one right there. Clamp this, clamp the hose right there, and now we're ready to put the airbox in. All right, we just took the intake tube off that mounts to the turbo down there. This is the OEM, and this is the aftermarket. All right, we finished the rest of the intake. We put the intake tube that mounts to the turbo housing down here. It routes in here into the filter, install the IAT, and put the box in here. Pretty and easy install. We put the 10 right there, goes in the 2 tabs right here. There's a clip right here, and just mount this on right here. Looks pretty clean with the K&N, and you can see the filter. It's gonna make so much power.
We've wrapped up our dyno runs with the K&N Intake installed on the Ford Bronco, and we've got some pretty awesome results to go over. If you look over at our dyno graph, you can see that we are producing a gain of roughly 12 wheel horsepower and about 15 foot-pounds of torque. This is pretty awesome for a bolt-on intake. With that as well, we are in Arizona, so our temperatures are pretty hot. And again, we are on a Mustang dyno, so realistically, you'd see a larger gain on other dynos, and of course, the crank horsepower is going to be much higher. All right, it is time to get our VR Tune tuning box installed, get back on the dyno, and see what kind of results we can produce. We have wrapped up our final dyno runs with the Ford Bronco, including the K&N Cold Air Intake and our VR tuned tuning box. As you can see over here on our graph, we are producing some pretty awesome results. Overall, we've picked up about 20 wheel horsepower and roughly 45 foot-pounds of torque. Aside from that, if you really pay attention to the overall graph, not just peak versus peak, you can see overall we've gained a ton of power. In fact, our torque has really increased in the entire low to mid range, anywhere from 3,100 RPM all the way up to 4,100 RPM, and it continues to pull much higher all the way to redline. With that, of course, the horsepower reflects the same. We've gained a pretty healthy improvement at right about 3,200 RPM. This is where we're seeing 20 to 25 wheel horsepower, and it carries all the way to redline. All right, now that we've gone over everything in regard to the dyno results, it is time to get this thing unstrapped, get it out on the street so Dan can test it and give you guys some more sweet fucking content.
So the Bronco is done, the intake is in it, and now we're gonna drive it. But you know what? I'm always driving these cars. I think it's time for somebody else to drive it.
You're gonna let Asian lady drive it.
Uh-oh. Let's get in and see how this goes and test what this intake feels like driving, so I can give you the passenger response and she can tell us what she thinks about actually driving it with the new intake.
Oh, wow. This is my first Bronco experience.
Before we get into it, we got it in park, seatbelts on. Can you just hear the intake if you just rev it up a little bit?
Let's try it.
I think we got a little blow-off noise there because now you've got the airflow so much freed up. So you got the turbo whistle, you got the air.
I like it.
All right, let's go for a ride. So we're leaving the shop to give it a nice couple holes around the block. Oh boy. I'm pretty sure that was doing some powers.
Yes.
Some horsepowers. So Anytime you put an intake on a turbocharged vehicle, you're going to get much quicker throttle response because you're increasing the airflow to the turbo. And turbos basically love more air and no restriction on the back end. So with the intake, we got more airflow coming in. We've got the turbo loving it because then it's getting that fresh air, it's spooling. And K&N has their filters really designed specifically for the horsepower of the vehicle, the engine size. There's a lot of science that goes behind the design of air filters. So it's not just put any tube and filter in a car. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and you can see from the install and the components that it's a very, very nice piece and worth every bit of it for the horsepower you get. You want to step on it, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. All right.
It definitely gets up and goes. I think we're getting a little extra noise from the soft top though, but the power is there. And I would say it's safe to say that the intake is a modification that would be your first choice, your second choice. What would you do if you're looking to do performance on any turbocharged vehicle?
Intake, exhaust, and tune.
There you go. And guess what? That's exactly what our Bronco has. It has our VR Tune tuning box. It's got our new VR Performance axle back exhaust, and now we have the K&N Intake kit. So will an intake benefit you though off-road? Those are some questions to answer. There's a couple things to think about with off-road. One is an intake, again, better airflow, more power, whether you're crawling slow or you're going fast down desert roads. The one thing you want to make sure of is that do you have a filter that's designed for the increased particulates coming from the dirt? Yes, K&N's filters absolutely do that. And if you want to actually improve the safety, if you will, of having blocking additional particulates, is they make these filter socks that go over the filter to reduce the amount of dust, dirt that can get in there. K&N, I'm not sure if you know this, but K&N filters are reusable for their entire life, unlike OEM filter. You can clean this filter every 5,000, 10,000 miles and continue using it. You just get some of the K&N filter spray, spray it on the filter, and you are good to go. Now, the serious off-road guys are going to ask us this question. What do you think they're going to ask us?
I don't do off-road, but what do they ask?
Let me tell you what they're going to ask us. Can I go through water? First of all, how many of you are really submerging the entire front end through water? There's probably a couple of you, and that's where they have snorkels and other things. But the fact is that a little bit of rainwater, whatnot, no problem. If you're physically going to submerge any filter, including your OEM filter, underwater and step on the gas, what's it going to do to your engine?
Ooh, it's gonna break the engine. It's gonna blow the engine.
What kind of noise does a blown engine make? So, if you are the type of guy that is going to be going overlanding through and submarine through water, then any type of intake, you want to make sure that you have a snorkel system. If you're the Bronco owner that's occasionally going out, having some fun, doing some wheelies and driving that thing on the street, any type of intake like the K&N one is the perfect solution. And that's why you can run the K&N Intake safely, get power out of it, and enjoy the performance aspect. Oh no, more gas.
Oh! That was pretty fast.
I don't want to bring up any type of concerns, but it seems that you have a heavy foot. What is the end of the day speech on how this intake feels?
It actually feels really powerful. Did you hear that? It's loud. Oh!
So if you are interested in, any type of modifications for the Bronco, especially this K&N Intake, we've put a link down there in the description, down there, so you can click it and you can see, read about it, see the pricing. Of course, you can order one. And we have all sorts of other modifications for the Broncos: wheels, lift kits, tires, exhausts, charge pipes, roof stuff, light bars, everything. So of course you can check that out. So let's head back to the shop. One more boost and then we'll wrap this up. Of course you can.
Hell yeah.
One more. Back to the shop we go for a quick wrap up. So we're back here at the shop. There it is. Again, the intake that's making all the noise, all the fun, all the power. And yeah, very easy. You can see it's the full entire intake pipe all the way to the throttle body. And there's the box. K&N's awesome logo and the filter.
I love it.
Yeah.
It looks really clean.
So as you can see, this is definitely one of the instant modifications you have to do for your Bronco 2.7 liter EcoBoost. And that is us. And we have had a blast doing this modification here. We actually have some more things coming for the Bronco. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned, and we'll see you at the next one.